Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I would like to welcome here two of our special speakers for today. We've got Lorena De Benedictis and Mary Spark. Hello, everyone. Hello, you two ladies.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah, we've got actually Mary is a veteran when it comes to our webinars. This is her third time here, and I'm so very pleased and grateful that both of these lovely professionals and gorgeous women could have joined us today for the PPM Summer Talks, as you know, for their wonderful talk on agility, and you'll actually hear them talk more about it. And yeah, on behalf of Y Summit, I would like to welcome you here. We've put this 5-week-long conference together. It's a completely different concept that many people who are actually joining us today are already familiar with. For new people, I would just like to say that it's a 5-week-long conference, and it's something new that we came up with because we really wanted to change the way people view conferences in virtual times, and having one online webinar a day rather than 8 of them packed in one day. It's a bit different, and it might be something new and something wonderful to learn from, and we'll see how it goes. And we might be doing this longer, but I would like to welcome you again, and hopefully you're going to enjoy it as you've been doing for the past almost 3 weeks now with me and all of our lovely speakers. All of the online events or the webinars can be found recorded on our YouTube channel, so feel free to share with anyone you'd like. I know I've been getting quite many emails about how people can actually watch them and rewatch them if they miss any of the online events. So that's one way. And yeah, hopefully not many people will miss this talk because it's really interesting. And as I said, we've got two lovely ladies. I will take just a little bit of a time to introduce each of them, and hopefully they'll be able to tell us more about them. Something juicy that I wasn't able to found in their LinkedIn profile, let's say. So we've got Mary Spark, MBA PMP. She's a director and the project management graduate program at Golden Gate University and in San Francisco. So yeah, good morning. It's a very early morning there. She's an active leader for the local chapter of the Project Management Institute, PMI San Francisco. And she came to academics following a career in project and quality management in banking, technology, and nonprofits. Her biggest passion is to empower adult learners to their careers. And that's actually what she's mentioned to me as well. She really is passionate when it comes to adult learners really wanting to grow and expand their knowledge. So hello, Mary, feel free to add anything to that if you'd like.
I have a lot more in the presentation. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you so much. And as a second speaker, she's a brand new to our platform, and I would love to welcome her again, Lorena De Benedictis. Hopefully, it's a great pronunciation, as I spoke a little Italian before.
Great.
She's a marketing specialist for the strategic communications and marketing department at Golden Gate University. Right now, she's working from Italy, so she's actually very close to me.
No, she's in San Francisco.
Oh, I thought, sorry. I actually thought she's in Italy, and I thought, how amazing.
No. She's in San Francisco.
Sorry, but
you wouldn't Italian. Know because you can't tell.
Yes, but she is Italian, so at least that's right. Yeah, and she works at a Golden Gate University in San Francisco, where she's right now. She manages and designs the artwork for internal and external communications for the university, and I would love to welcome her here as well. And if you would like to add anything, or I'm not sure if you've got anything about introduction yourself in the presentation, but feel free to add anything you'd like.
I will add more during the presentation, but I would like to mention that also I'm the secretary of the board of the San Francisco area chapter.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, and sorry for that. I really thought that you look like you've already done a lot of work, and that's why I thought European time. It's 4 p.m. here.
She just looks so polished and rested all the time. I don't know how she does it.
The Italians, jeans and the pizza. I'm pretty
That's
sure.
Right.
But yeah, it's my pleasure to host these wonderful ladies here. And before we start, I would just like to ask them a few questions. Nothing too dramatic, but just to warm them up before their presentation, which is going to start very soon. So Mary, for example, is there anything that, and I've asked you this yesterday as well, because Mary was our wonderful moderator for a session yesterday. Is there anything that we don't know and we should know about you that you would like to share? We know that you love podcasts and you've got
Sure.
your
Yes,
nerd
I
podcast.
mentioned yesterday I was a podcast fanatic. I'm also a crossword puzzle addict. So I've gotten really hooked on the New York Times. They have these electronic puzzles. They have a pangram puzzle and a mini crossword, and I'm sort of obsessed with that right now. So
And thank you. And if I can ask on like a bit of a serious note, what are the biggest accomplishments that you're most proud of in your career? What would you say?
oh my goodness. Can we hold off on that till
Of
the
course,
presentation?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, anything
I mean, it's just because you're going to steal our thunder.
Of course, then I shouldn't.
And I'm still working my cup of coffee, so you're asking my brain to process too much information.
Of course. Please, Lorena.
I think my biggest accomplishment right now is that I managed to get up and I'm talking to you all, and it's just about 7 in the morning my time. So I think I'm ahead.
Can I answer for you, Marie? I think that your biggest accomplishment is to be a great mentor.
Oh, thank you, Lorena.
Yes. That's really nice to hear. And I think everyone needs great mentors in their lives. And if someone else really can say it about you, it's wonderful. And I can only imagine, because I had a pleasure of seeing you, speaking with you, talking to you, and seeing your work a little bit at least.
I would just say, as far as it comes, I mean, I just do enjoy being a mentor to others. And honestly, I love speaking to groups like this because I learn from everybody else. So, and you're just such a gracious host, Katie. It's just fun to be here.
Thank you so much again. And Lorena, is there anything that you would like to share about you that we might not know if we read your LinkedIn? Anything?
Yeah, well, something, funny about me is like, I cannot function without an espresso in the morning, of course. So I'm here drinking, I'm sorry. In America is polite, in Europe is not really, but now I'm in San Francisco, so San Francisco rules. Here is 7 a.m. So, and something professional is that I have 3 masters, one in graphic design from Italy, one in architecture, urban design from Spain, and then I studied project management in San Francisco, where I'm actually located.
That's admirable. Yeah, it's. Did you enjoy all of your studies, or was there specific?
Oh yeah, it's great because now, as you mentioned, I'm working in the marketing department, so I had the opportunity to merge my graphic design skills with the project management skills. So, as a marketing specialist, the perfect job role for me. And then I'm going to tell you more during the presentation, but thank you to Marie Spark. Now I'm teaching also the Agile class remotely at Golden Gate University, so it's a great opportunity for me.
Perfect. I'm really glad. I'm going to say it again. Really grateful for having you both here. And without further ado, these 2 ladies are here to give a presentation on how to lead and succeed with Agile virtual teams. And I'm going to give them my word. If you've got any questions, please keep them coming in the chat. And these 2 ladies are going to manage themselves. They know exactly what they're doing. So please keep the questions coming and enjoy. It's really wonderful to have you both here. Thank you again so much, and enjoy, everyone.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, everybody, and welcome. We're about to introduce our presentation. Lorena and I are going to tag team here. So we're talking about lead and succeed in Agile virtual teams. And as Katie mentioned, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we're going to alternate in terms of us monitoring the chat. So here's our agenda today. You're going to meet us as your presenters, talking about first I'm gonna have a couple topics that I've learned from virtual presence and lessons from education, and then Lorena is going to really cover the whole Agile side of things, and we'll open up to your questions. First, a little bit about me. Well, you had a great introduction from Katie. Just to say that one of the things I just want to highlight in my profile here is I spent a lot of years working virtually and teaching virtually. And so that's one of the reasons that I came to working with Lorena on this presentation. Next slide.
And my name is Lorena De Benedictis. I'm from Italy, that's why my accent. I'm a teacher assistant for the virtual Agile class at Golden Gate University, where I graduated last year, in 2020, during the pandemic, in project management, a master in project management. I'm working at Golden Gate University as a marketing specialist, as I mentioned already, and I'm the board secretary of the PMI San Francisco Bay Area chapter. My original background is in design. I studied in Europe, graphic design and architecture. And then I moved to the US. I fell in love with San Francisco, and I'm here still since then. Welcome, everybody.
A little bit about Golden Gate University, because you probably haven't heard of us. We're a small local nonprofit university, and we've been focused on the adult learner for a very long time. So our name Golden Gate actually was named after Golden Gate Street, because that we started out in a YMCA, a Golden Gate Street, before the Golden Gate Bridge was built. This was like in around 1917. And we are online, so if you want to know more, ggu.edu is where to find us. And I just want to say that this whole thing of distance learning is not new. So I love showing this picture. This is on our campus. This is a 1940s class that was conducted by radio through Golden Gate University. We also then did, in the 90s, they did classes by television. And then as soon as the internet classes became possible, we've been doing online classes a long time. So just to say, one of the things I benefited from, Lorena and I both have benefited from being at Golden Gate University, is they really are pioneers in distance learning. So let's get started. So, okay, so first a little bit about me and my virtual experience, because I've had a lot of years, both as a corporate employee and in teaching, at working virtually. So I started at IBM, which, you know, is technically International Business Machines, but when I came there in the 90s, it had come to mean I'm by myself as a joke. But it was only a partial joke, because I was a consultant, and so I went to clients, but I had to interact with all the IBM people remotely, because any of my management, the budget people, all those people were remote, and a lot of times we were doing things on our own. When I ended up at Bank of America was doing a lot of, had been the legacy Nation Bank, and they did a lot of expansion. They were used to, and they had this very in-person culture. So I was in San Francisco, and I would talk to people on the phone in Charlotte, and they'd say, when are you going to come to Charlotte so I can meet you in person? And there was never a reason for me to travel. And in fact, at the time I was a junior project manager and I didn't travel, but it said something to me that they thought that they couldn't really work with me until they met me in person. Then it kind of evolved over the period of time I was in Bank of America, because the company became more and more expanded. People in the Charlotte area really had to get used to working with people in New York, London, India, and beyond. And what was interesting is by the time I left, they really had embraced working virtually. And in fact, I spent several years actually as a full-time work from home employee. This is around 2010 to 2012. So like way before the pandemic, Bank of America had a full-time program where you could be a permanent work from home employee at the time. So that was, and then coming to Golden Gate University, as I mentioned, I came to a school where they had this very long-standing culture of online learning. Most of what we did when I started was asynchronous, which meant it was sort of like you have a website, you post your assignments to it, students post text discussions on their own time. In the last couple years, we've started having the Zoom sessions, and that we actually have been starting this in the last like 2 years or so, and then I guess our timing was really good because of the pandemic. So just to let you know my experience and where I'm coming from here. Brandon, go. You can move the slide. Okay, so how I'm going to divide my talk is I'm going to talk about virtual presence, first about making it real, and let's go to school. Next slide. So first, making it real. And that is like, I think there's where people struggle with working virtually is, how do I make my relationships seem real in this virtual world? And I just want to say here, you can build working relationships with people you never meet in person. Next slide. So just first of all, you don't need video to make a personal connection. I think we've been very focused on Zoom. Zoom is great. But back when I was at Bank of America, we didn't really have easy access to video. We did a lot of phone conferencing and other things. And so one of the things I think that taught me was I built some really incredible relationships with people that worked in other offices, people who worked for vendors. There was this one project I was on where I worked with this company, a software vendor in New Jersey, and I never met those guys in person, but boy, we really knew each other well. So one of the things to do is, so first of all, just say, you don't need video to make a personal connection. The second thing is recreating that sort of chats in the hallway dynamic. That's one of the things we're all missing right now with the pandemic. One of the things I've been reading a lot about is there's this thing where, you go to the coffee maker at the office and you run into someone and you have a conversation about something. Those kind of spontaneous conversations are how a lot of your work gets done, and also how your happiness at work and how you collaborate. So one of the things I used to do a lot, and I still try to keep this up, is to recreate that chats in the hallway thing. Reach out to people spontaneously, whether it's because you just want to check in or because you want to talk to them about a TV show you're binging, but build that in, because otherwise you're not interacting with people in a natural way. Find personal connections with people, sports, hobbies, and other things. Again, one of the things we lose when we're all virtual is, let's say, when you used to go into a meeting in person, there's that couple minutes before or after where you're talking about the, finals game of the NBA or something like that, or asking about their family. We don't tend to have that in Zoom or in these remote. So, find those ways to make those personal connections with people, but you have to build it in. So the point is you have to be intentional about it, because it doesn't just happen. And then the final thing here is make your presence meaningful to others. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you're in a meeting and you're just kind of sitting there and listening, people don't know you're there. Also, if you're just speaking and you're just saying, speaking content, or you're just talking about business, people don't know who you are. Again, you have to sort of build that personal presence of yourself of, I think it was great. I thought that was a great example, actually, like Katie was asking Lorraine and me some questions about ourselves to be on our LinkedIn profile so that we could kind of come out as people. And I feel like one of the things that we all do you have to build that presence when you're working virtually with people. And you do it, again, you have to make an effort. And I know for some introverts, that may feel a little strange, but the more you do that, the more you put yourself out there and make yourself fully present virtually, the better off your relationships and your collaboration are going to be. Next slide. So one of the things, just in terms of problems that we face with this, ensuring inclusion is harder. I think we've all heard about Zoom fatigue. The other thing is there's a lot of stress just being on video, for instance. So my daughter's an introvert, and I work with students, some of whom don't speak up. And then sometimes if you're not paying attention to the people not speaking up, you're losing them. And just video stress is real. So part of the thing with Zoom fatigue is, like, right now I'm looking at myself and I can actually hide that image. So I strongly recommend, if that's something that stresses you out, you hide that image. But just to understand that interacting on video is not just a normal interaction, that it causes stress to some people. Also, you just don't have those nonverbal cues, because, like, for instance, when I'm teaching something, when I'm in the classroom, I usually catch the eye of some student and I go, oh, wow, they're stuck, or there's something going on, because I can see nonverbally their body language. That's a lot harder to gauge on Zoom. And so those sometimes team member silent can mean many things. And so one of the things I would just say is figure out ways to include the people who are not speaking up. And that may be not putting them on a spot in a Zoom session, but if someone didn't speak up, again, using that chats in the hallway thing, reach out to that person, talk to them one-on-one, find out what's going on. Because silence can mean many things. It might mean they're fine. It might mean they have stress at home and they're not handling it well, or it might mean they're not feeling part of things. You won't know unless you reach out to them. And then one of the things to do is to find ways for safe expression. And one of the things I always like to tell people, advice is, you have the right to take up space. And that is, again, talking about introverts or people who don't want to speak up, when you call on them, I'm going to talk about ways of calling on people. When you put them on the spot, there's two things that happen in the video. One of the things, if you call on them, they may feel put on the spot. But also, if you call, one of the things I've learned, which is out of years of teaching, when I was on Zoom and I call out and ask a discussion question, whereas in the classroom people would speak up, I found a lot of silence. And sometimes that has to do with the video doesn't feel like a safe place to speak up. So finding ways to give space, a safe expression for people. And I'll talk about that more in the next section. Next slide. Okay, so transition to let's go to school. And this is lessons from online teaching. I've now been teaching on Zoom for about 1.5 years and online learning for longer than that. So this is the things that I think will help anybody collaborating with virtual teams that I've learned. Next slide. So first, let's say goodbye to death by PowerPoint. Goodbye. I mean, I know we're doing a slide deck here, but when you're interacting virtually, just don't do it. Don't read a bunch of slides. One of the amazing things about technology is you can do things like do a recording of a slide deck with your audio ahead of time. That's what we do in the flipped classroom, which is the modern classroom. Class time is now for interacting. So my graduate students, they have a lecture with PowerPoint and my audio that they can watch at their leisure. There's the reading they do ahead and everything. And so class time is interactive. And I just strongly urge you to use that time. Again, the thing with Zoom fatigue is there are these meetings. How much of that is just regurgitating content? Make interactions meaningful by having it be actual, real-time discussions, being interactive discussions, things that need to be worked through. Other thing that we've learned is that people learn by doing, and also people engage by doing. And so then again, having a meeting where people are actually having input and interacting, they learn from that and they also engage and you make progress as a team, again, as opposed to the death by PowerPoint. And interactions should be two-way. Figuring out ways, even in a talk like this, I know this is a little one way because of the format, but in general, like when I teach, I try to build as much as possible, interacting so it's not just me talking. Next slide. I want to get a little nerdy on you because I go to university and I wanted to tell you about the AGES model to learning. We've learned a lot in neuroscience about how people learn, and it I think it'll just validate a lot of things we all kind of know about ourselves. And there's AGES model is attention, generation, emotion, and spacing. So attention is grabbing people's attention by engaging them. Hopefully we grabbed your attention by the subject of this talk, which is why some of you are here. We engage people's attention at the beginning of the talk by like having an interesting story or introduction. And then we engage them through generation and emotion, and that's generating ideas, drawing them in through emotion. That's one of the reasons like storytelling really draws us in. The other thing is spacing. And I just wanted to point out that Katie was talking about this conference and how this conference is designed where there's one talk every day rather than like all the talks crammed into a day or two. And honestly, that is how people learn the best or process the best, because people do their best thinking and problem solving when they're given empty space to absorb ideas and let the input sink in. And again, getting back to that whole idea of the Zoom fatigue and people in being meetings all straight through, if you're asking people, and I know all of you are in industry where it's very challenging, if you're asking people to problem solve and to do their best thinking, you need to actually build in that spacing. So maybe something where you need to think about not always having meetings for everything, making sure that people have work time that is not in meetings, but that space time of not doing things is important, and doing things where you have like, empty space that's not scheduled. Next slide. So takeaways, online interaction also, less is more. One of the things I've been reading and hearing about and noticing is that when you're working virtually in groups, you cover less territory than when you're in person because of all those things I was saying you have to build in terms of the interaction and everything. So just scale back what you're expecting to do. Like if you're having some big meeting where you're wanting to cover a bunch of brainstorming or activities or agenda items, you're going to want to scale back the items, have fewer things, and you will cover them better. One concept I wanted to point out is warm calling as opposed to cold calling. Remember, I was talking about being introverted or people feeling resistant to interacting. One way to do that is with warm calling. So rather than calling on Lorena and putting her on the spot, one of the things I can do is I'll ask people to say something, I'll raise a question and ask people to respond in the chat. And then I'll say, hey, Katie, you have a really great comment in the chat there. Would you care to elaborate on that? And so then Katie knows, oh, I'm already on the right track. I'm not being put on the spot because, and I have to come up with an answer. I already know I'm on the right track. So think of the ways of, the other thing to do is you can use things like polling tools. One of the great ones I love is Poll Everywhere. That's a way people can interact, but it's anonymous and it's kind of fun. You can do things like word clouds. And again, it's not putting people on the spot and allowing them to interact. And then creating interactive roles for people. You know, when you have meetings, make sure that one person, one of the things actually, Zoom and these kind of things, it really helps to have someone monitor the chat or take minutes or other things. Figure out ways in every meeting or interaction that different people have more roles. If one person's just leading the meeting and everyone's sitting there, it's not going to be as engaging. And I think that is the end of my slides.
Yes.
And we are transitioning to Lorena.
So hi again, everybody. I want to give you a bit of background of why Agile and the Agile in the virtual experience that I have and I had. So as I mentioned already, I graduated a year ago in a master in project management. And one of the best classes that I had was the Agile class, the in-person experience. It was great. I loved the teacher. The class was really interactive, all these post-it. The class was so colorful and a lot of brainstorming and was great. I loved it so much that I decided to bring the Agile methodology to my team at Golden Gate University. So we started with a stand-up meeting every morning. I built a big, giant Kanban board on the wall, and it was great. In the meantime, I was volunteering for the PMI San Francisco Bay Area chapter, and the chapter is, he works online. We always meet online. Everything is online. At that time, I was the marketing director. Now I'm the secretary of the board. So I moved from operation to the board, but all the interactions were virtual on Zoom. So when COVID hit, my team at Golden Gate University was lost. It was like, how can we be agile? How can we build the same structure that we had in person now that we need to experience this on Zoom? So I stepped in and I merged the experience that I had with PMI that was already virtual since forever, with what I learned in class. And then we started to do Agile virtually. And Marie Spark, that is the program chair of the Golden Gate University, came to me and was like, now we need to put together the Agile class. Can you help us with that? I said, of course, let's design the class together. So this is my experience with Agile, and that's why I'm giving this presentation. But let's start. So Agile with distributed teams. And what does it mean exactly to be distributed? So is when the team are not in the same room, and it's not the first time that happened. It's not just because of COVID. It's always been like that in some degrees. But because it's not, people are not in the same physical location is where most of the stigma come from. And there are two main misconceptions about that. The first one, as I mentioned already, is that in order to be agile, you need to be in the same location. And there are teams that are spread across the country already. I'm in San Francisco, you guys are in Europe. I have friends that are in Italy and we still can collaborate in the same team. And there are already teams that are across the country and they still use Scrum and they're very agile. So this is not really a big problem. And number two is that someone pointed out that in the principle to be agile in the manifesto, in order to be agile, you need to be you need to interact face to face. And this is true, but the manifesto doesn't mention anywhere that you need to be located effectively in the same place. So I agree that co-located teams are most effective, but it didn't say, the manifesto didn't say anywhere that you have to be physically co-located. So let's talk about Agile with distributed teams. The benefit, the downsides, and then I put together 10 tips to improve our approach. Benefit of distributed teams. You have a great coverage. So our team in San Francisco is finishing up with the day, and another team in Italy and Europe is starting. So we are covered basically 24 hours, and this is great. Another point is that people are around the world. So we have different time zones, and the project can have a continued development. We can fill the team with the best people. As I mentioned, I want a graphic designer that is from Italy, and I can do that. I don't need to pick the graphic designer that is physically located in San Francisco. I can increase diversity, so different background, different culture, and different perspective that I can bring into my project. And thank you to that, we can avoid the groupthink. Think about that. This is really important. Downsides, of course, we have downsides. So, and it's actually in the name itself. And when the team doesn't feel really like a team, they don't know how to report, they don't know how to solve problems, it's hard to feel like a team. And this can result sometime in a low morale. Is kind of longer and difficult to solve problems sometimes because it's not really clear who is doing what, how to move the project forward. And usually there are a lot of dependencies in those collaborations. And of course, it's also true that the time zone can be an issue because you need to overlap in order to meet your teammate. So to develop a project, you need to overlap, even though there are, the time zone issues. Otherwise, you miss the opportunity to work together with your team members. That's why I put together 10 tips for virtual agility. Let's go through them one by one. Number 10, don't use it as an excuse. So what I mean by that? Every team today, as I said, is distributed in some degrees. Even teams that are located in the same building, they have some degrees of distribution, right? We have the marketing department that is on the 6th floor, the engineer that are on the 5th floor, the hub that is on the 1st floor. So we are already distributed. And what do we do with that? We try to navigate, right? So the fact that it's difficult is not good enough. Let's not use it as an excuse. And the agile approach is to make the best of every situation. So as everybody knows this, as an agilist, we say all the time that it's not the smartest or stronger species that survive, but it's the one that adapt to change. So you need to be resilient. We have been resilient with COVID, and as an agilist, you need to be resilient if you want to move forward your projects and adapt yourself. Number 9, co-locate as much as you can. So rotate the interaction with the team members. More you talk with different people, and more you will learn and understand. So spread the knowledge, build your team interaction, be generous with your knowledge, being general of sharing your skills. Because in the same way that you're gonna learn mentoring other people, you're gonna learn receiving from them, they are gonna learn when you mentor them. So it's always like in a tennis court. You give and you receive, otherwise the interaction doesn't work. And it's like that in every relationship. Friendship with coworker is always like that. Number 8, assume a positive intent. What I mean by that? So the best team gives each other the benefit of the doubt. So we assume that everyone in the team is doing a great job, is working hard, is doing their best, they're highly professional, and no one is there to sabotage the team or the organization. Because you know what, the problem most of the time is that we tend to think negatively if we do not interact daily with the team members. And we assume that they're not doing their job for some reason. I don't see them, so I don't trust them. So let's try to build trust. Let's trust our team and let's assume the positive intent. Number 7, get together when you can. So get everybody together as much as you can, like spring kickoff, summer kickoff, holiday parties. Try to get together as much as you can, and you will get
Lorena, I hate to jump in, but there was a question that I thought was really good. Sure. And it's related to this. And it was, how do you celebrate success?
Well, are we talking about the team success or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just generally, how do you, normally
well, I think that, for example, this number 7 point, get together when you can, is the perfect answer. So we need to celebrate the team success. We deliver a project on time, in budget, with the scope. Let's celebrate, let's get together, let's have a happy hour together. Let's celebrate as a team. Let's build together and let's celebrate the accomplishment. Because if we reach the goal, is because we work together as a team. It's not just
that could be a virtual get together, right?
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely, okay. Absolutely virtually. Happy hour. Celebrate your accomplishment as much as you can. And you will get a lot of benefit in terms of better team dynamics. And also it is a great way to build a sense of team.
We'll just add that there's a lot of stuff that's been coming out recently, like virtual escape rooms and party things that you can pay for.
Like for example, with PMI, the San Francisco chapter, last year for the Christmas party, we celebrate with a DJ. So we had a DJ that was playing and we were dancing in front of the computer. We stand up and we were dancing in front of the computer. And it was great because people were dancing in their own house, drinking and celebrating with the family and the kids and the dogs, animals, pet, whatever. And we were all together, and it was COVID, it was like the beginning of COVID. Everybody was feeling so isolated, and it was great. It was our way to stay together. And we just disconnected for a couple of hours. So this could be an option, for example. I know people that they watch movies together. So there is one person that shared the screen and then with friends or the coworker, and then they watch the movie together. Like this, you can chit chat during the movie if it's something that you like. Any other question? Can I go ahead?
You can go on.
Okay. Number 6, diversify your team. So especially around reviews. And we know that the variety is the spice of life. Then try to review together your project to increase the sense of understanding, empathy, and create a common culture in the team. Is to verify that everybody is on the same page, everybody understand what's going on. If a team member has a question, that is the time to bring it up, that it could be helpful also for the other team members that they didn't really thought about that question. So this is a great point. Number 5, agree collaboration times. So we know that agile teams are usually very noisy because we talk about problems. We hear each other's opinion. We have the stand up. We brainstorm, we chit chat, and we talk a lot. But we need to understand, as Marie mentioned before, that there are people that are introvert, extrovert, introvert, and we need to navigate all these different personalities. So it's really important to give some quiet time. That in Agile, how we call it when we give private time to people, Pomodoro. So let's give a Pomodoro time to people in order to digest and process all the information and to work productively without any distractions. So let's respect the time. We get together, we brainstorm, we do our stand-up, and then let's give time to our team to work without any distraction. Let's not go there and say, how is going? What are you doing? What are you working at? We're supposed to know if you're a good project manager. We don't have to ask that, and we need to trust them. Number 4, invest in tools. Of course, to enable the team to collaborate as much as possible and to increase productivity and morale, we need to provide the right tools. So let's think about communication tools, collaboration tools. I have this great website that I found for the Agile class at Golden Gate University. I was sharing with my students. This is a great website. I'm going to share with all of you this website. Collaboration Superpower. Welcome to Collaboration Superpower. This is a great website where you can find all the remote resources for individuals, leaders, and team. There is a long list about tools divided by categories. Tools for collaboration, tools for communication, meetings, team building. And I found in this website the Miro. That is what I used for my class. And I used Miro for the Kanban board. Also with Golden Gate University, my team in the marketing department, we were using this when Agile became virtual. You can share your screen. Everybody can use the Post-it to brainstorm or for the stand-up meeting for the Kanban board. It's a great tool, so I highly recommend Miro. But in the website, you can find also other stuff for getting together and to celebrate accomplishment. See, this is an example of a retrospective. So after the interaction with students, we always did a retrospective. What did you like? What did you learn? Whatever, like lacked of donuts, of course, we are online, we are virtual. Number 3, over-communicate. That is not going against the Pomodoro time. This is something else. When I'm saying over-communicate, I mean like be prepared to own the risk to sound repetitive and annoying. So the general temptation when we are virtual is to communicate not that much. So the temptation is to do the minimum because it's hard to communicate, it's exhausting, and it's even harder when we are distributed. So unconsciously, we tend to under-communicate with distributive team. And our team members, sometimes they can misinterpret the messages, the email, for example, or if we use Teams. So when we make a decision, let's be sure that we over-communicate that. Let's keep track and let's make sure that the communication and the information is coming across correctly. Let's reinforce it because we don't have the possibility to look each other in the eyes. Even though the camera is on, we are missing part of the body language. So I want to be sure that what I'm saying is coming across in the right way. So I'm going to send an email and then I'm going to have a meeting and I'm going to write it down. This is what we established. This is what I'm expecting from you. Then I'm going to give you the Pomodoro time, but let's be sure that the communication came across correctly.
Hey, Lorena, I just want to pipe in as an instructor. This is something I've learned. So when you teach people, you have to tell students like 5 times and still there's going to be someone who missed it.
Oh,
and that's one of the things I learned as a teacher.
Always.
This is why teachers sound very repetitive. They
Yes.
tell you, they email you, they put it in the class.
And always you're gonna get the email after like 24 hours, like, how do I supposed to turn in this assignment? So don't get surprised. It's not that because the people are lazy, it's because it's difficult. So let's be empathic. Let's understand that this is a problem that is gonna come on your way for sure. Number 2, learn about each other. So as Marie mentioned before, try to build a close relationship with your team member, because we are people and not just resources. So know what annoys you in order to build a relationship for a successful team, and learn what annoys other people, because as I said, you need to build a relation. It's something like between 2 people. It's like a tennis match. And we want to be part of the same team. So let's engage in personal conversation. I want to understand what's going on in Marie's life, how many pets she has, what does she like to do, what does she like to do during the free time. I mentioned that I like coffee in the morning. So when Marie gonna interact with me in the morning, she's gonna tell me, did you add your coffee today? Because she knows that I'm gonna be grumpy otherwise. You know, this kind of relationship. We are people, not just resources. So let's keep that. And number 1, create working agreements. So what kind of team do we want to be? What do we need from each other in order to make this happen, in order to move the project forward, in order to be successful? Let's create working agreements to be on the same page. Let's pick up. So this is like all together, get together when you can, diversify your team, agree in collaboration times. Don't make excuses, over communicate, invest in tools, assume positive intent, collocate as much as possible, create working agreement, and learn about each other. So remember that, of course, we will make mistakes. We're human. We will forget things, as we said, with students that are going to come back to you after saying the same thing 5 times. They're going to come back to you, I didn't know. I don't know how to turn in this assignment. But we can have a positive intent, and we can get better, for sure. Questions?
So, Lorena, there was a couple. So I did put one question. There was another question that is that Camila asked, and I'll answer it for myself, but I also love your answer. So Camila asked, any ideas on how to handle dead silence on virtual calls when you are brainstorming? And Camila, I really relate to your question. As I said, when I switched to Zoom teaching, suddenly those times where I'd ask people for input, there'd be dead silence. So a couple suggestions that I have. One is, and I put it in the chat, there's this tool called Poll Everywhere, fantastic free tool, and it allows for has all sorts of functions beyond like Zoom polling, where the great thing about polling is people can put input and they're not on the spot and it's anonymous. One of the ones I love the most is called a Q&A poll, where people can put free form ideas and then they can rank them up and down. So that's one thing. Another thing is, you know, breaking out people into groups is really fantastic. So if you're in a group and like no one's saying anything and you want brainstorming, break them out into smaller groups. That's like one of the magics I learned as a new adjunct when I had the situation in a class, and one of the instructors told me that figure out ways so people aren't put on the spot. The reason people aren't saying anything is they don't want to be that first one to put themselves out there. So the other thing is using the chat function in the Zoom is fantastic too. Like I said, is say, hey, put their, you know, like you all put the things in the chat. It feels a lot less threatening to put something in the chat. Because then when I'm calling on Camila, then I'm like, oh, that's a great question. So then if I start asking you to speak up, you feel already validated. You don't really feel like you're having to put yourself out there. Yeah. Lorena, do you have any suggestions on that question?
Well, I'm madly in love with Miro. So that is the tool that I use and I love.
That's a great idea, to use a tool like Miro, where when you're asking people to brainstorm, they're putting it on Post-it notes.
Exactly, because at that point you are not anymore really leading the team, but you are facilitating. that is different. So everyone logs in and everyone can move the post-it, write on the post-it ideas to brainstorm, even though the people are, also the people that are silent usually, they are introvert, they found their way to speak up. It's like
the nice thing about something like Miro is it's real tactile, and then you feel like you're doing something. I think that's one of the things we miss in the virtual environment. I also feel like even people's ideas are better, even though people will speak up normally, people will put way more out their ideas on the paper than they will speak up. Because you know that thing that sounds really crazy to speak up, you just may not want to say it, but you'll put it in writing.
Now also because that is a great way also to keep the person that over talk all the time a bit quiet, because everybody just need to write it down on the post-it, so everyone has the same amount of time and you can hear everyone.
You know, I'll give you an example of that, which is one of the things I learned. I used to teach a blended class where we would have discussions in the classroom and then we would have online discussions. And one of the things I learned is the international students who had English as a second language actually really thrive with those asynchronous discussions, because they had the time to read what everybody had to say and then say things in their own words with and then like it was magic. So that's you know, because that's the other thing, is coming up with maybe having chats where you're brainstorming asynchronously. Like think about this conference, the idea is for the ideas to percolate over a period of time. Maybe having a session where you kick things off and then having asynchronous chats. Great question about Alice Barkle asked about, do you have any good tips for conflict resolution in a virtual setting? Oh, Alice, that is a very good question. I don't know. I have a couple ideas and I'd be interested in you, Lorena. So one of the challenges with conflict sometimes can be, and maybe we're all virtual right now, but one of the things I found in my past experience is sometimes there's people who are co-located and then there's someone who's not. And then if it's, one of the challenges can be if like a bunch of people are in one place and then that other person feels isolated, it's very hard to get, there can be, it's asymmetrical. I was in a situation, for instance, where I was working from home and I had a lot of people in another city. And when there was problems, I didn't necessarily know about it. So one of the things is that thing of over communicating, making sure you're having one-on-one conversations with people. If you're talking about actual conflicts, you know, it can be, you know, some of it is just being aware of what's going on with your team. I think one of the things is if there are conflicts, like trying to have those one-on-one conversations to resolve things. I think the secret sauce we all bring as project managers is over communicating. I would say, I think conflict resolution is one of the toughest parts about working virtually, honestly, because you don't have it out in person. People tend to get mad at each other or they get raised voices, and there's this thing we don't do. So I don't have a fast answer other than over communicating, being hyper aware, having side conversations with people where you can be candid. Do you have any other thoughts on that, Lorena?
Well, and try to establish like a one-on-one kind of communication to figure it out if there is anything else. Try to dig a bit in the private life of this person to figure it out if there is anything that is going on, because conflict resolution is always hard when it's in person or when it's virtual. It's not really like any easier when it's in person. So in the same way that you're gonna handle it in person, doing it online. Usually you meet the person like one-on-one and then you try to figure it out what's going on. Do the same during the virtual experience.
Right. I would agree, and I would just say it is a challenge. It is harder.
It's challenging, yes.
Keith
especially
says,
because everyone is going through a lot of stress.
So on another point, I think Keith raised a really good point, and he said that with some of these tools and things we're talking about, we need someone to facilitate the chat, not the speaker, to work well. And I absolutely agree. So Lorena, so just to that point, I think one of the things we underestimate are, so most of the times as project managers, we're running like our meetings and things like that, and we don't think we need help. You absolutely do. To be so effective, you need someone helping out with the tools. I think this is a win-win. So that gets more people involved. Definitely, like the reason I'm able to handle chat and Lorena is, you know, is because we have two speakers here. But like one of the reasons Lorena is a teaching assistant for this class this Agile virtual class is we absolutely realized for it to be effective, we needed outside, the instructor needs to be able to completely do the overview of the class and her magic as a facilitator, while Lorena handles the nuts and bolts. And I think the thing that's positive as well is then that gets more people involved. And as I said it before, people learn by doing. And I know we're at the top of the hour, so let's close out the really wonderful discussion. You can all connect with us on LinkedIn or via email. And thank you so much. And here's our resources.
These are all the resources, the collaboration superpower, Miro, Pool, and Golden Gate University website. And
we'll hand it back to Katie. Thank you for having us.
Hello, everyone. I'm still here. This was a really, really wonderful topic. And I was just about to ask if these are the slides that you would or could share with us on our PPM.
Oh, we'd be happy to share it.
Yeah, if you're happy to share it, please do. And this was being recorded, it is being recorded, so I will be posting it online as well. But everyone has been loving you, and it's wonderful to hear the comments. You know, exactly as you said. Thank you for a great session, excellent session. Then you to know exactly what you're doing. And I mean, whoever side had to go, I understand. But if some of you who are still left, if you'd like to ask any more questions, I'm not sure what the time restrictions are for Lorena or Marie.
I could stay on.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So I think we can both stay on. It's early, so no, everyone else in California is sleeping. So
yeah, if anyone else, feel free to ask away. I'm not sure if Keith has his camera on. Maybe I'm not sure if he would like to speak up. Thank you, Mary, Lorna, and Katie. Thank you. It was wonderful.
Okay, I think maybe we just wrap it up, but feel free to reach out to us. You have our contact.
Yeah, of course, exactly as the lady said. They're both, on LinkedIn. They're both a PPM workout platform. So feel free to reach out to them. Reach out to me. I can get them. I can get you their email addresses. Anything you need. And this was really, really wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And yeah, we have another great webinar session behind us. Another ahead tomorrow again at 4 p.m. Central European time. So thank you again. There is nothing left for me to say. This was really wonderful, and I'm grateful for this community.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye.